Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me on another of my wonderful interviews. Now, you may remember about a year or so ago, a young lady came onto the channel trying to find funding to set up a group of people who would help people who'd been injured or the bereaved of people who had sadly died as a result of a certain medical intervention that we are very used to talking about on this channel and elsewhere. It's been a year since that time, and I thought it would be a great idea to find out, because you get a number of stories that you are introduced to, they disappear, and you think, whatever happened? Is it working? Was the funding coming in? Are they managing to help people? So this is Alex Kelly, who, as I say, joined me a year ago, and she was trying to help her mother, as I remember. It's been a long time. Lots of things have happened in my time since then. Alex joined. Alex joins us now. Hello, Alex.
Hi Richard, how are you?
It's lovely to have you back. Yeah, no, I'm very well. You've been dealing with a lot. You're basically at the coalface, aren't you, as a result of this rather nefarious vaccination that we've all been learning to live with one way or another, whether
Yeah.
it's just through friends and family or whether we've had it ourselves. And yeah, I remember you coming back on, and it was very early days for you, and you'd sort of written to me as a bit of a last hope, really, to try and get some publicity, and I was more than happy to have you on the show, of course. So before we find out what's been going on since then, maybe you could just tell us a little bit at the beginning of what motivated you to set up what I think you've called is the CVIB Legal Fund, CV being COVID, vaccine, injured and bereaved.
Yes. So when I first spoke to you, I think it was February, March last year.
Right, so we're just over a year
Yeah,
then,
so it's just
really.
over a year. My family and I had wanted to set this fund up, due to the loss of my mother from the AstraZeneca vaccine. Can I say that? Well,
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah. I
YouTube is
mean, so
ridiculous,
much,
but
so many people. I mean, I know. I think the algorithm is a little bit more
mm,
relaxed, at least.
okay.
I hope it is.
Yes.
But you're. I mean, yeah. I mean, they've just, withdrawn their vaccine from the output. I wish they'd done that right at the beginning.
2024. So yeah, great timing. I mean,
Yeah.
unbelievable. It's taken this long. I mean, Pfizer and Moderna are just as bad as far as we're concerned. All of us in the vaccine injured and bereaved community across the world, are just all three of them have caused absolute havoc.
Yes.
But the reason that my family set this up is because of what happened with my mum. So just to keep it short, she died 4 days after the AstraZeneca vaccine in 2021, January. So she was one of those very early cases, and had the coroner and others that I'm now hearing about and have been hearing about done their job at the time, I think there'd been a lot more lives saved and a lot less injured people, because obviously they continued this AstraZeneca rollout in 21.
Yeah.
So, just looking at how the system is, the MHRA, the coroners, the medical profession, just going through the judicial system myself, my brother and I fighting for mum to have mum's death to be obviously investigated and to have an inquest. That took us till the summer of 2022. So we finally got to the conclusion, which was pneumonitis induced by AstraZeneca vaccine. So not clots. There are so
Right.
many different types of deaths and injuries. If you speak to any of the groups, the cases that are being highlighted at the moment are the VIT cases, and hats off to them, because they are really trying to kick that sort of first big door in, and we're all
Yes.
behind them. But there are A to Z of injuries. So therefore, if you look at the injured groups, they've got every type of injury. That therefore you've got to think, well, how many different types of deaths are there? And
Mm.
my mother's death was not clots, but the pathologist was adamant. She would be here today, he said, had she not been given the AstraZeneca vaccine. So we had all of that confirmed. And going forward as a family, being a member of UKCV family, which I'm in the bereaved group and help with, I'm a moderator there. They're amazing. They've just been given charity status. So if you're injured or bereaved or you need support because you're helping somebody, come to us. UKCV are a phenomenal group. Have really helped me as well. But also, the truth be told, Fiona Hines with the campaigning, I'm a member of that group too. And she's been screaming about this from day one and giving the injured and bereaved a voice. Now, so where's the media been? Where's anybody been? Only now they're reporting on it.
Mm.
You've been doing, people like yourself have been doing an amazing job, but where have they been?
Yes.
How many
Yeah.
people could have been saved? And this is why my family wanted to do something. We got the answers for mum. So I know what happened. And that does bring some comfort's not the right word, but you have some acknowledgement as to what happened. I've
Yes.
got that in black and white. I've had all that done. And we wanted to make sure that other people had access to somebody like Peter Todd, who is one of the best vaccine solicitors, in my opinion, in the country. Without him, I would have got nowhere with mum's case. So, we've been running for what we've started, yeah, it was like last spring. So I think May onwards was when we first started payments out from the donors and patrons for the fund to Mr. Todd, and he's processed. I think he's worked on about 30 different cases now in a year. Now they vary. That can
Mm.
be VDPS rejection, which takes hours. That can be challenging a coroner. We've got injured who are having to have medical professionals challenge so they can get causation. Just knowing where you stand, it's so important legally to know where you stand. And yeah, so we've got Andrew Bridgen as a donor, we've got as a patron, we've got Dr. Ros from the Perseus Group as a patron. Um, Mr. John Boke, he's a patron too, and we've had to really rely on social media as much as sometimes it's a bit of a cesspit sometimes.
Yes.
You've got to get the word out, and the mainstream media won't report anything, so you have to do it. And without Twitter and other platforms, well, X now as they call it, we'd have got nowhere. So I'm
Mm.
really grateful to the patrons and donors that have stuck with us. To have 30 cases of completely different cases.
And presumably the money for each of those cases are going to vary depending on the complexity of
Yeah.
what you've got to do, what you've got to deal with.
Yeah, something might just be a consultation that you have with Peter. And so that'll be 1 hour of his time, and
Mm.
he'll let you know it's a yes or a no, or where you can go with this. And it might be a lot more than that, particularly with challenging a coroner, VDPS rejections, which you can do yourself, by the way. You can appeal a VDPS rejection yourself. I
What does
certainly
that
would.
stand for? What does that stand
So
for?
that's the vaccine damage payment scheme. This is this
Right.
£120,000 that it's not compensation. It's a one-off payment. People confuse it as compensation. It's not.
Is
It's
it
a
a sort
one-off
of a
payment.
bribery to go away?
Yeah, you could put it. Well, there you go. Yeah, it's from the government, so
Yeah.
I think so. But yeah, the whole thing of it was to help people who've initially been injured from a vaccine, um, to help with initial medical costs, or your home's going to be slightly altered. You're going to need whatever you're going to need, but
Mm.
it's just not fit for purpose. And this is what the groups are pushing for: is it's 59, no, 60% threshold that you have to reach. Now, what if you hit 59%? 59%, they categorize you as injured. You get
Right.
nothing. It's
And can you
ridiculous.
just talk us through what does that mean? 59% of a number of
So sorry, 60.
ticks that you.
Yeah, that's it. The medical assessor will look at your case and go, well, you don't quite hit 60% threshold, so you're getting nothing. So what if
Right.
you are? I mean, we've got cases where people are housebound. They are
Yeah.
severely injured. They will never walk again. They will never work again. Um, some of them are, I mean, the list, as I said to you, of injuries is just unbelievable when I look at the vaccine injured groups, and with deaths as well. But with the injured in particular, they're not, the assessors are not assessing them as above 60%. So then they get nothing, and they're
So
just
in other
left.
words, if you've taken this vaccine, you can't walk, but you can hop.
Yeah, it's,
But
it's
if it,
yeah.
but if you can't, if one leg doesn't work, but the other one does, it's like, well, that's kind of 59%. But if the other leg had a bunion at that particular, so you couldn't walk very well,
Yeah.
you would just get
I
over
think
the
that's
threshold.
the level of the assessors, yes, basically.
Right.
And this is what we're pushing for. So,
And so even small harms that you just say, look, I've got this problem.
I'm
I
gonna have it for
need.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have it for life. I just need, and I haven't got a lot of money, but I need a wheelchair. Could
Well,
you, could the fund do that? No, you don't. You
don't
don't
get
miss it.
anything.
So you don't even get anything.
No, this is why we've been sort of pushing for, all the different groups have been pushing for more of a sliding scale attitude. So if
Right.
if you're really, really severely injured, you'd get probably the maximum. and then, come down on that so that people that, can maybe now go back to work. A lot of them can't, but maybe can, but they've got walking issues now, so they're going to need apparatus. They're going to need their home modified.
And the maximum is only 120,000.
Yes, that's right. And I
So
mean, my family were paid it, so that's obviously the price that they put on my mother's death and my mother's
right,
life,
okay, so
which is
that's
quite
what
frankly
they're measuring
disgusting.
life at. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
£120,000
yeah.
is all you're
But again,
worth.
it's not compensation as such.
No.
It's a one-time payment to help you. But it's then what happens after that for the vaccine injured?
Mm.
What happens after that? They don't
Yeah.
work again.
Exactly. I mean, if somebody's gone, as awful as that is, and people are going to be bereaved and might need counselling or whatever, but that person has gone. But if they are injured and they in pain, or they can't walk, or they can't have their old life, a degree of that 120, it's
Yeah,
like you don't even qualify. Even though we've mandated you go and have this drug put into your body, we've propagandized you left, right, and centre. You've been told you couldn't have your job unless you had it. And at the end of the day, we've got this tiny amount of money. For somebody, say, in their 30s or 40s, who may have 20 or 30 more years working to keep themselves going. And these days, you've got to keep working all your bloody life because of the cost of living. I mean, it's such a small amount of money in and of itself.
yes. It is
Yet
a
we
small
and,
amount.
and yet
Yeah.
and yet we can give money to wars. I mean, this is what people will really don't understand, is that we can give money to wars, or we can put people coming across on small boats up in hotels and give them everything that they need. It seems extremely unfair.
Yeah, it is. And we just, as I say, we're all just fighting. All the groups are fighting for a change on this. And Victoria Atkins, MP, said in the last few weeks that this needs to be reformed. This needs to be looked at. Well, she needs to get her finger out and get on with it, because I've said this before. We have suicides in the groups. We have vaccine injured and bereaved being turned down for this, and a lot of people aren't even bothering. They're not even bothering because they're seeing people getting rejected, and they don't want to deal with
They don't want to deal
fight.
with the rejection.
They
Yeah.
just don't want to deal with the fight of it. And you
Right.
can. The thing is, if you do put in a claim, you can appeal it over 6 years, and things are changing. We're not going to stop, any of us. Any of the groups are not going to shut up.
Mm.
And sadly, our numbers are growing. I was um
Right.
I was at Houses of Parliament the other day. Mr. Bridgen did a fantastic job of getting the excess deaths debate, and I was in the public gallery, and it was rammed. I mean, we were packed. The
You
pathetic
could hear
amount.
it.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but I heard
that was
the
us.
video,
Yeah,
and and they don't like it down there, do they? They don't like it. It's like, oh God, they're
yeah. But it was a feeling of the general public, the majority of us. We know this is going on.
yes,
We all are getting to the point where, I mean, obviously for my family, we've known for a long time, but most people I speak to now, yes, I know somebody that died suddenly, or I know somebody who his health declined and then they died, a year or so later, turbo cancers. Professor Dalgleish has spoken about this.
mm.
He's been mocked and called a conspiracy theorist. He's a professor of oncology in
Yes,
South London. I mean, the man is he knows what he's talking about, and he
and we
saw
seem
after the jab just this increase
in
in
turbo
cancer.
cancers, and
Yeah,
of course they're prepping us up for this in other ways by saying, oh, cancer's on the increase. They're not sort of mentioning that it was their fault, that with their stupid injection that's
yeah,
helped this,
exactly.
or is
One
the
in
main
two
cause
now,
of
I
it.
think. Now, 1 in 2 people will get cancer. But I mean, I think it's about 93%. I think that's correct. 93% of the population have had one or more of these jabs. So, they don't want this to come out, because, we're 2024 and we're still only just speaking about this now, or the mainstream
Yeah,
media are. So it speaks volumes as to the relationship between the government, the media, and the pharmaceuticals, doesn't it? It speaks volumes. And as I said, the amount of people that could have been saved if cases like
I
my mother's had been listened to in the first place, and others at that first quarter of
I
21.
was talking to a chap who works in a pharmacy as a sort of, I suppose, like a locum pharmacist, if you get what I mean. As far as I know, he sort of goes around lots of different pharmacists as to cover, and I asked him about how many people are people still doing boosters. I mean, I've kind of been a bit out of that world because I don't go for boosters and things like that. And you sort of in this world that the YouTube channel and the talks and stuff, I'm talking to many people who've never been in that world because they've sort of woken up or aware or whatever you want to call it. And he deals with the general public, of course. And he said, yeah, people are on their fifth or their sixth booster. And I was just thinking, and I said to him, how are they walking out? I mean, with that level of
Good.
that level of stuff in it. And he
Yeah.
said, it is amazing that with so much disclosure going on, and even people like AstraZeneca and Pfizer, you know, all the bad stories about them, people are so conditioned
Yeah.
to still line up out of
Makes
fear for something that really hasn't been an issue
Yeah.
for a long time.
Exactly. And this is, you know, and your Pfizer and Moderna are just as deadly as far as I'm concerned. We're seeing in with all of the injured and bereaved. Um, yeah, it's not just AstraZeneca. Obviously, that's getting reported a lot at the
Mm.
moment, but it's all of them, all three of them. They're a nightmare. And the worry is children. You know,
Yes.
they really do want to mRNA all of the vaccines. They want to make the traditionals mRNA. So that is a massive worry for childhood vaccines. And if you look at the measles uptake, it's completely dropped because people
Has it?
are
Oh,
questioning. Yeah.
oh, good. Well, it's difficult to say what I would like to say on this channel because of WHO intervention on the censorship and things.
Mm.
But those things that you give to children that have been advised for some time, that parents tend to be told by doctors and nurses that should happen. When you look at the research that's now coming out about them, such as the influenza outbreak and things like that, you realize that these products, and let's call them products because that's what they are not as healthy as you might imagine. And we've seen the cases of autism and ADHD and all of these sort of strange things escalate, absolutely escalate off the charts. And also I was talking to somebody who runs a play school, nursery, who said, I'm giving this up because the kids now are so aggressive
Really.
and they never used to be. They
Wow.
used to be, you know, and they are now, they're violent, they have no patience, and they're holding their toys, which might be hard plastic or metal toys, and they're punching the care assistants. Now, I'd be very interested if anyone can tell me if that's going on up and around the country, and that's a sort of national problem, because you wait till they're 14, 15.
Goodness, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
But
It's yeah.
these so-called health prevent or bad health prevention products, and the people are still taking them. So anyway, sorry, I digress
No,
there.
it's
But
it's all related. It's all yeah. It's
here
all
we are a
yeah.
year later from when
Yeah.
you came on the channel. So I suppose the bad news is that
Busy.
in a reverse way
Yeah.
is that you're getting loads of people coming to you. I mean, it's
Yeah.
great that you are, but it just shows you the size of the problem. And I'm sure you know you're just seeing a small percentage of people who know
Absolutely.
about you.
Absolutely. And we, as I say, we rely solely on our patrons and our donors because without them, this would not be happening.
Yes.
But what we can do also is I always give them the information about UK CV Family because they are such excuse me, a fantastic support charity. A lot of information, a lot of things you can do for yourself. Um, but yeah, we are getting a lot of people, and there excuse me, there is a backlog. So I ask people to please be patient because you know you are in the queue, you are in the list, and
Yes.
it's mainly for people on low income and benefits because like for my brother and I, when it was mum's case, we were working, so there wasn't something like this anyway, but we were
No.
working and we funded it ourselves as best we could. But yeah, I mean, to become a patron, you can become a patron for £1 a month. That's the starting tier, and we have a crowd justice donations page, and we've just had the best people just stick with us, sign up and stay with us. Um, some really generous souls out there. They're never going to meet these people, but we're
No.
chipping away. Every group, as I keep saying, we're all doing our thing and we're all chipping away, and that pressure is not going to stop because sadly our numbers are growing.
Yeah.
And like you say, I'm just getting a fraction of people coming through. But yeah,
So
if anybody can sign up, I'd be very grateful, or at least share the platform. would be really important.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if somebody is injured and they're watching this for the first time, what's sort of the steps that they would go through? And I know you say there's a waiting list, but let's say you get to the top of the waiting list. So whatever the waiting list is, you get to the top, and I guess this is difficult because there's so many variables depending on how injured they are and what it is. But just talk us roughly through if there is a typical process of what people can expect.
Okay, so really, what happens is you will email us at the legal fund. The inquiries is on there, and it's usually myself that replies, or a member of my family, and we will get you to contact Peter. He will then let us know what the fee would be. So it may be that you just need a consultation with him, and then you'll literally it's literally just really simple. You're on a queue, you're on a list. So yeah, that's it. And then I will give you some advice as to go to UKCB Family. Peter will. I mean, I can't speak because I don't involve myself in. I'm not legal, so I don't involve myself in his discussion with the clients. But he's likely then to direct you to the things that he will need. Whether it's a bereavement or an injury, whether you're going to need what medical papers he will need, etc. So yeah, people tend to email a lot to me, a lot of the information, and they can just copy that and then send it back to Peter. And then he contacts me and says they are number, excuse me, it's the pollen, your number, whatever on the queue. And literally you're just going to move up. But this is why we need the support, because we need more and more cases. We need to keep chipping away at this. We need.
And so if you're in a case, say let's say you're somebody who's not severely injured, but injured enough that you can't work or it's affecting you, and Peter takes on that case, what would he do?
Well, it's so individual, as you said. It's so individual. It could be that he would be able to look at, again, I can't speak legally, but he would look at the benefits that you could get. I know that one of the injured has spoken to me about that, different benefits that you could get, whether or not he could help with getting causation on your paperwork. And again,
I mean, would he do litigation? Would there be going and saying, "Hang on, this was malpractice, or you misdiagnosed"? If you'd had, say, the injection or whatever, and you got ill, and you'd gone to the doctor, and they said, "Oh, don't worry, it's nothing to worry about." A week later, your leg falls off or whatever.
Oh yes,
and you go back,
stuff like that. He will look at all of that.
So he'll say, "Hang on, that's a bit of malpractice there. You should have picked that up. Even if you can't say it was the medical intervention, you should have known."
I mean, he's a vaccine, but he's also a medical solicitor, so he's across the board as well as. But this is very much his forte. But yes, no, he could do all of that.
And if there was other solicitors in a similar line who were watching this and thought, "Do you know, I could get involved in something like this because I could help." Are you open to others coming on board?
I mean, I would speak to Peter. I'd get them to just have a chat with Peter, because I sort of just deal directly with him.
Yeah.
But I would say to them, approach Peter and have a chat, and that's up to him then because I know he's a very, very, very busy man. So,
well, of course, yes.
Yeah, sadly, yeah, very busy.
Absolutely. But I mean, if anything happens to Peter, I mean, we don't want him to burn out or to.
I have had that chat before with him. I said, look, you are human.
Exactly.
But I think, best thing would be to approach him and have a chat with him.
Right.
But we've got so many cases coming in. So yeah, it's how he does it.
I mean, a team of people working on it. I mean, even if they could deal with the more simpler stuff to free Peter up for the more technically difficult ones, if they were obviously competent and well trained and all those other things. Sure. Because presumably, the more people you can help, the quicker the queue goes down, and so on and so forth.
Exactly. I mean, he's he's on our website, so you can go down, read all about his history, and then click onto his link and contact him direct as well. So people don't necessarily need to come through to us if they want to go direct.
Right.
They can. So anything like that, have a chat with him. But his info's all on there. So.
But I guess the biggest stumbling block is it does come down to money,
yep.
and you're facilitating the fund, and so the more that people can give. Yep. and help and make regular donations, I suppose, is a great idea.
I appreciate we're in a really awful economic state at the moment. That's why the the tier of £1 is if people can do that a month. You'd be
Yeah.
amazed how that masses up to, you've got 500 people doing that, you've got 1,000 people doing that. It's a third
Yes.
of a coffee a month.
Exactly.
And
If we,
you're chipping away at, we're coming for them and we're not stopping. So you're doing something to help
and
these
you're not. I
places.
mean, although the government will, with their what did you call it? The various benefits that
Oh,
the
yeah,
government,
VDPS.
that they
Yeah,
hand out. I mean, the government aren't stepping in and saying, "Oh my goodness, look, here's a brilliant idea." They're trying to raise money to help the vaccine injured. They're not going, "Oh, this is a fantastic concept. We should help you by giving you a few £1 million to get
no,
things moving."
no, of course not.
And and it's unlikely, isn't it?
Very,
Because
very unlikely. Yes, this is why. I mean, I had a lady do a swim last year. She raised £70. I've never met her. She's like, I want to put that in the fund. She's not injured. She did a whole marathon swim thing. Not really freezing cold weather, and
yes,
just things like that. You just think, wow, people are amazing because you're helping people that you
that
don't
you
know.
don't know,
Yeah,
and
but it's this change of attitude, and I think we're all sick to the back teeth of this whole establishment. I hate that word, but it is an establishment that we're dealing with, and the Mr. Moderna, as I call him, Sunak, this interwoven mess of the pharmaceuticals, the medical profession, the mainstream media, and the government, and just not a conspiracy theory. It's money. It looks like that's what they do.
yes.
It's lockdowns, the vaccines. It's just been an absolute horror show.
But I mean, fortunately, a lot of information is being disclosed now, and we're seeing the backhanding, the deals that have been going on, the connections between these big organisations and the power that these people are wielding in their government roles, and still saying safe and effective and all this, and not acknowledging people like Andrew Bridgen, who of course is been pushing and pushing for debates and conversations and questions, and let's just halt the rollout before we kill any more people, because
That's right.
if people keep rolling something out which it's questionable that it's doing any benefit, then surely if anyone dies after that, it's tantamount to murder.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's been amazing. I said to him, and there was a couple of occasions I sort of had a chat with him, and I said, "You've got the name Bridge for a reason." I'm a big believer in power of name, and I'm just
Right.
like, you are going to bridge this gap because he's called a conspiracy theorist. He's mocked by, you saw the House of Commons. It was empty.
Yes.
The gallery, we were packed in the public gallery. As I said, you could hear us. It was empty. It was pathetic, and yet he gets mocked. He said, people, he has a tough time down there, but he's thick-skinned. But he's just not stopping, and thank goodness for him. But he's vaccine injured himself.
Yes.
I think he's had two. And he's like, what, how can I be anti-vax? How can I be when
Yeah.
I've taken it
I fully
myself?
embraced it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just thank goodness for the likes of Andrew, who's put up with the ridicule. He's not fussed. He's not standing for this.
No,
Um,
and more people are beginning to come round to that. For you though, as more and more people start to realise and they hear about what you do, and the disadvantage of coming on a show like this is that, of course, I say disadvantage, of course, is that more and more people will be going, hang on a minute, I need some help.
Yeah, that's fine,
know.
because also there's things you can do yourself. I mean, so you can apply to the VDPS yourself. I mean, it's quite a form to fill in, but you can do it. And I would urge people, if you're injured or bereaved, or even if you haven't got causation, but you know full well something's not adding up, do it, fill it in. So that's one thing you can do. And Peter will most likely tell pretty much everyone, fill it in if you've got a big question mark over an injury or death. You've got 6 years to appeal it. You'll probably get rejected, but do it anyway. All the groups are always pushing up, fill the form in, fill the VDPS form in.
And I think that's a very important point that you just said there. Even though you may get rejected, you're sending a message that, if thousands, if millions of people are applying and sending in these papers, the people who are going, no, we can't do this, we can't, bloody hell, there's so many people. The message is going upstairs, isn't it? It's going up to the departments where they're getting a bit worried.
Hence Victoria Atkins is now looking at having to reform it. She needs to speak to all of the groups. She needs to speak to the vaccine injured and bereaved, Peter Todd, other solicitors, who will clearly spell out how this needs to be reformed, instead of just glossing over it and giving us some flannel, because we're not going to stand for it. We are bereaved, we are injured, we are angry. People are
Yes.
maybe a bit tired of hearing about it all.
Well,
Well,
I
it's
was
not
going
gone
to.
anywhere. It's getting worse.
Right.
So
I was going to ask you about that, because initially after the vaccine and you hear about the injuries, people are obviously very concerned because it's very recent, it's in the news, or it's in the news on the alternative media. Let's put it like that, and it's blatantly absent from mainstream news. But as time goes on and people are being distracted with wars in different countries and the tight squeeze on money, do you feel that there is a lot of people who are sort of disconnected now with the results of this vaccine and the
yes,
injured and bereaved?
yes. Well, I think yes and no. I mean, more people are suspicious of that friend that suddenly died or that relative that suddenly was ill, and they're tying it up to the timings
They're
of,
starting to
yeah.
join the dots,
Even if
as
it
it were.
wasn't that close to having the jab, things changed for people's health. So
Yes.
in one way, no, and in the other way, it's like, oh, someone else asking for money, another fund, another thing.
Yes.
We have to keep at this, because we're talking about excess debts, and we've not finished. We don't know the outcome of all of these three. We've got Pfizer and Moderna. So I should say their names. Sorry, Richard. I'm
Sorry.
trying not to get you into trouble. Um, of the three,
Yes.
we still are learning so much from the vaccine injured and from the bereaved about the different types of injuries and deaths, and how they're all coping, and the different remedies they use for particularly obviously the injured, what remedies they use. Um, so nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. I sometimes look at the news, or very rarely, but I look at the mainstream media, and I feel like I'm in 2020. And I'm just like, how are you not properly reporting on this? It's not 81 cases. As I say, thank goodness they are pushing ahead, the cases. Hats off to them, doing a brilliant job. But there's so many different cases. We've got thousands of people that have died from this and are injured.
I asked you before we started recording whether the main body of people who were injured or deaths were as a result of the first couple of iterations of this medical procedure. You reminded me, that, of course, that people are going for boosters, which reminded me of the conversation with the pharmacist chap that I was speaking to yesterday.
Yeah.
And my question was, is this increasing? Are we seeing more people coming along being injured? And is it a delayed thing, that it's the third or fourth booster that they've had, that something in it creates the result?
Yeah. It's a mixed bag. Again, it can be, I mean, my mother died within 4 days of the first jab.
Yeah.
Other people have been injured within two jabs or died within two jabs. And so, you're seeing it's such a mixture. They've muddied the waters brilliantly.
Yeah.
And then they can say, well, that person had health issues. Or, I mean, for example, he won't mind me saying, my uncle, he had a Moderna booster. The day after, he had the most excruciating headaches for months, and they couldn't get on top of it. Turned out it was blood pressure. The Moderna had messed up his blood pressure, but they could have put that down to his age. He never had any issues before, but they've muddied it. Very clever, actually, what they've done. And as we said with turbo cancers, we've got still, many women, younger women, talking about menstrual cycle issues, menopausal issues. What's going on with the male sex then? What we don't know. We don't
No.
know yet. Is there going to be problems?
Well, we hear about these poor pregnant women who are
Yeah,
having many stillbirths.
yeah, and all around that time, and I heard, another news, rubbish I was listening to the other day was obviously the whooping cough, um, vaccine that they're saying pregnant women. I think it was this week. I was driving around. It was on the radio, and I was just like, I used to. I'm a daughter of a nurse. Mum was a nurse. I believed in
All
a
this
mixed,
stuff.
yeah, but I'm a mixture. I like a lot of natural stuff, but I did used to, have a headache. I'll take a paracetamol. But hearing about pregnant women being urged to have the whooping cough vaccine, and I sometimes I just don't know what to. I'm talking a lot right now, but I don't know what to say anymore,
Yeah.
and I question everything. I would not trust a medical professional to put a plaster on straight right now. I just have such I have such a problem with the medical profession now. Their trust, I think, is gone.
In tatters, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Which, fortunately, of course, there are a lot of people now stepping into that role
Mm,
who are offering alternatives for chronic pain, chronic disease, that sort of thing. Obviously, if you are in a road traffic accident and your
yeah,
bone is sticking out of your skin in the
haven't
wrong
got much
direction,
choice. Yeah,
the hospital is
yeah,
going to be the first port of call.
yeah,
But if you are a friend of somebody who's in hospital, you might want to be taking them some good healthy food, because we know that food is a good medicine. And it is astonishing that in hospitals the food is
appalling.
atrocious.
I know it's plastic,
And,
isn't it?
and yet that's where you're getting your
Yeah,
minerals and your
that's right.
your vitamins, and they're not providing that, especially at a time of recovery.
Yeah, yeah,
There's so much wrong with certainly the National Health Service hospitals. I mean, private hospitals might be different. You might well get nice steak and chips or whatever. Who knows? I haven't been to one. So we're in this very strange world. Although for people who perhaps have minor problems, there does seem to be a lot of protocols and a lot of solutions coming forward, which is really good news.
yes, yes.
But for those who've lost loved ones or are in terrible straits, and they may well be looking to try and get aid and help, coming to somebody like yourself with the legal fund, maybe all that's left of them.
Yeah,
So,
that's it.
you know,
And no, and like I said, I mean, it's knowing where you stand. And it was something Peter said. Apologies if I repeat myself, but I don't think I mentioned this. He said there's an awful lot of healing that can happen when you're acknowledged. And
right.
so that
No, I
acknowledgement, yeah,
totally get that.
there's a lot of healing there. Even if it's, look, you can't go any further, but this is where I think you're at. You've done everything you can at this stage. And you know what? Information's coming out all the time, so you could always come back. But
Yes.
he's right, there is a lot of healing that can happen. I mean, just the inquest for my mother, even though we had it from the start on the death certificate, the inquest, the pathologist standing up to the coroner saying, no, this is what happened. She would be here today.
Yeah.
Um, I remember just, as awful as it is that it has happened, knowing what that is and having that acknowledgement did help a lot. So yeah, I think for people that have come, I mean, you can go onto the testimonial page. I'd urge people to have a look at our testimonial page on the website. It's just a few of the cases. I think it's about 10 or 11 of the cases that people have given us a write up. So you can get an idea of the different cases, from coroners to, as I say, BDPS rejections. You can see what people have written about their time with Peter. And yeah, we're just continuing. I'm not going to take my foot off the pedal. So
I,
we just
I
need the
think
support. So
absolutely, yeah, and I would urge people to go along, and if you are in any way able to help, then please do. And one of the things I was just going to say, listening to you there, is that, and I'm just trying to remember now. You hate that when it
happens to me
goes out
all
of
the
your mind.
time. It happens to me all the time. Don't worry.
You had an interesting point. Is that it's all the time that you are talking to other professionals, like when you were saying to the coroner, you are in a way reminding them they are a cog in the system,
Yeah,
and they're either working for the greater good or they're not. And surely some of these professionals who are still saying, get your booster, a
yeah,
vaccine is a good idea, ought to be opening their eyes, or at least opening their minds to the possibility
yeah,
that the increasing number of injured people have a point,
yeah,
and that you can't keep pushing something which is
yeah.
obviously causing a lot of damage.
And if I hear that word rare one more time, I will lose the plot. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, it's no
Because this
longer
is the
rare.
problem. They're just saying it's X amount of cases. And as I said, my mum's is not one of those. It's a different death. It's a different type of death. And so then people are blindly going along for their boosters, thinking, oh well, it's just AstraZeneca. I'm going to go for the Pfizer
Yeah, I'll be all
booster
right
and I'll
with
be all
this one.
right. And it
Yeah,
was just X amount of people. I'm going to say this as, she was my mum, so I will say this. And she was medical herself, so she would always be like, "There's always side effects to things." That's not what this is. That is not what this is. You've injected the 93% of the population with one or more of these jabs. Um, she would always say that this is going to happen. In any case, something small like this would happen. If she was just one person out of however hundreds of thousands, I'd be like, "That's my grief, that's my loss, my family's loss." But she did always speak like that. But that's not what's happening. We have got excess deaths and injuries just non-stop coming into the groups. This is not rare. I just can't hear that word one more time from these ridiculous television doctors. And I think you know who I'm talking about. Oh, they're just a nightmare. Because the people that are watching are, going for their boosters. Stop. What are you doing?
Yes.
It's 3.5 years. How many injections have you had at this stage? We're getting it like
Yes.
6 or 7
Yeah.
in 3.5 years. It's crazy.
I know you'll need an injection to go to your supermarket soon.
Yeah. They'll need.
Mind you, it'll be in the food anyway. So
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Livestock is, yeah. Oh, don't get me started.
let's get on to that one.
Yeah.
Alex, it's been a joy to talk to you. I'm so pleased we've managed to catch up after a year.
Thank you,
More
Richard.
power to you.
Thank you.
And of course, we'll leave the website cviblegalfund.co.uk in the description so you can go and check it out, look at the testimonials. And if you've got, I know it's tough times at the moment, but you may have a relation who didn't have much, or you may have had the injection, nothing happened to you. But if it had, you'd like to think that somebody somewhere was able to help fund the problems or the legal side of things, because we know the legal things can just escalate out of all proportions and they're difficult for people to fund. So do help where you can. Alex, as ever, joy to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you.
Let's hope next year when we join up there, some multi-millionaire has come along and is funding it, or
the government actually get their act together. That would be nice.
Or that the numbers start to dwindle.
Yeah, that would be good.
And we have better remedies and
Absolutely.
things. But
thank you, Richard.
But there it is, no problem. So there we go. I'll be back with more monologues and, of course, more wonderful guests. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves. Check out the website below. Empty your bank account into the fund and help those injured people. Until next time, from Alex and I, bye-bye.